The only thing colder than the October wind rattling our kitchen windows was the empty space where my wife used to sit for morning coffee. I stood there at 2 a.m., holding a lukewarm beer and watching Leah's headlights sweep across our driveway like a guilty searchlight. She stumbled through the front door, designer heels clicking against hardwood, clearly startled to find me awake in the kitchen. Her blonde hair was disheveled, lipstick smeared just enough to notice if you were looking, and I was always looking these days. "Owen? What are you doing up?" She clutched her purse against her chest like armor. "Couldn't sleep. Work stuff." I lifted my beer in a mock toast. "Late meeting?" "You know how it is at the agency." Hannah and I were going over the Morrison account until she glanced at her phone. God, until way too late. I nodded, taking a slow sip. Funny thing about Hannah. I saw her Instagram story 2 hours ago. She was home with her kids, making popcorn for movie night. Leah's face went through a series of micro-expressions. Surprise, calculation, defiance. She'd always been terrible at poker. She left early. I stayed to finish the presentation. "At the Marriott downtown?" Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just noticed the charge on our credit card. Room service for 2 at the Marriott, champagne and strawberries. Very romantic for a work meeting." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Leah set down her purse with deliberate care, her agency-trained composure sliding back into place. "Are you accusing me of something, Owen?" I'd been Owen Harper, marketing consultant, faithful husband, and apparently world-class fool for 15 years. But tonight, looking at the woman who'd shared my bed and my dreams, I felt something shift inside me, like tectonic plates finding a new position. "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm telling you I know." She laughed, but it came out hollow. "Know what? That I work late? That I'm dedicated to my career? Sorry if that threatens your—" "I know about Greg." The name hung in the air like smoke. Leah's face went pale, then flushed red. "Greg Weston is a client. A very important client who you've been fucking for the past 4 months." The words came out flat, matter of fact. I'd practiced saying them in my head for weeks, ever since I'd found the encrypted messages on her phone. The password she'd used was our anniversary date. Apparently, irony wasn't dead after all. Leah's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. "You went through my phone. I went through our credit card statements. Your phone was just confirmation. You had no right. I had every right. I'm your husband. Or was, anyway." She straightened her shoulders, and I could see her shifting into attack mode. Classic Leah, when cornered, come out swinging. "Maybe if you'd been more of a husband, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." "Ah, there it is. My fault. When's the last time you took me somewhere nice? When's the last time you made an effort? Greg appreciates me. He sees my potential. He sees an easy mark with a joint checking account." Leah's hand flew to her hip, a gesture I'd once found endearing, now just looked petulant. "You don't know anything about Greg. He's successful, ambitious. He's going places. Yeah, like the Marriott, with my wife, on my credit card. This is exactly why I can't talk to you anymore. You're small, Owen, small and bitter and faithful?" That stopped her cold. We stared at each other across the kitchen island that had once been the heart of our home, now feeling like a battle line. "I want a divorce," she said finally. "I figured, and I want the house." "Of course you do." "I'm serious, Owen. I've already talked to a lawyer. You can't afford to fight me on this." I finished my beer and set the bottle down with a soft clink. "We'll see about that." Something in my tone made her step back. For the first time since she'd walked in, Leah looked uncertain. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled. Not the warm, goofy grin she'd fallen in love with all those years ago, but something new, something with teeth. It means you should probably call Greg. You're going to need somewhere to stay. The next morning, I sat in my basement workshop, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and the ghosts of weekend projects I'd never finish. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam Rodriguez, my oldest friend, and the only ex-cop I trusted. Coffee? Heard you might need to talk. Small towns were like that. News traveled faster than gossip, and gossip traveled at light speed. I texted back the address of Murphy's Diner, a place where the coffee was strong and the booths offered privacy. Sam was already waiting when I arrived, his weathered face creased with concern. He'd put on weight since leaving the force, but his eyes were still sharp as broken glass. "So," he said without preamble, "how bad is it?" "Bad enough." I slid into the booth across from him. 4 months, maybe longer. Greg Weston. Sam whistled low. "The real estate guy? Jesus, Owen. That's cold." "Gets colder. She wants the house, probably half my business, and she's already lawyered up." "What do you need?" That was Sam. No judgment, no lectures about working things out, just straight to business. Evidence. Real evidence, not just credit card receipts and phone records. "I can't do anything illegal." "I'm not asking you to, just professional surveillance. See where they go, when they go, who sees them together." Sam nodded slowly. "That I can do." "What's your timeline?" "She's staying at her sister Dina's place for now, but that won't last long. Dina's got 3 kids and a mortgage. Leah will want to move in with Greg soon enough." And then, I stared into my coffee cup, watching the cream swirl like storm clouds. Then I introduced them to consequences. Sam leaned back, studying my face. "Owen, I've known you since high school. You're not a vindictive guy. I wasn't a lot of things before this week. Just be careful. Revenge has a way of eating people alive. Some people deserve to be eaten." That afternoon, I drove to Lucas Chen's garage on the outskirts of town. Lucas had been our neighbor for 5 years, a good-natured mechanic who'd helped me fix everything from lawn mowers to leaky faucets. He was also the kind of guy who asked no questions and remembered no details when it suited him. "Owen!" He rolled out from under a Camaro, his face split by a grin. "What brings you to my humble palace of automotive resurrection?" "Need a favor, Lucas, and maybe some advice." His expression grew serious when he saw my face. "Ah, shit. Leah? How'd you—" "Dina's kids go to school with my nephew. Word gets around." He wiped his hands on a rag. "What kind of favor?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo of Greg's Tesla Model S. Sleek, black, and worth more than most people's houses. "Nice ride," Lucas said carefully. "It's going to be parked at the Riverside Motel tomorrow night. Room 237. Same time it's been parked there every Wednesday for the past month." Lucas's eyebrows climbed toward his hairline. "And you know this because I've been watching. Learning patterns. And tomorrow night, I want that car to experience some mechanical difficulties. Owen, nothing permanent, nothing dangerous, just embarrassing, expensive to fix, but not dangerous." Lucas was quiet for a long moment, then broke into a slow grin. "You know, I've always hated Teslas. Pretentious pieces of shit if you ask me." 2 weeks later, I sat at Leah's parents' dining room table, surrounded by the kind of aggressive civility that only came with old money and older grudges. The Ashfords had never approved of their daughter marrying a blue-collar consultant, as Leah's mother once described me at a charity function. Margaret Ashford carved the roast with surgical precision while her husband, Charles, held court about the declining state of modern masculinity. Leah sat across from me, beautiful and cold as a magazine cover. "Owen," Margaret said, not looking up from her carving, "Leah tells us you're going through some difficulties." "We're working things out," I replied, accepting a plate of beef that probably cost more per pound than most people made in a day. Are you? Charles leaned forward, his pale eyes fixed on mine. Because from where I sit, it looks like you're failing to provide for your wife's basic needs. Dad, Leah started, but he waved her off. No, sweetheart. This needs to be said. A man who can't keep his woman happy is no man at all. I cut a piece of beef with deliberate care. What exactly are you suggesting, Charles? I'm suggesting you step up. Leah's brother Michael needs help with his graduate school tuition. $60,000. That's what a real husband would provide without being asked. The demand hung in the air like incense, heavy, cloying, and vaguely nauseating. I looked around the table at their expectant faces. Leah's was particularly interesting, a mixture of smugness and anticipation that told me this had been planned. 60,000, I repeated. It's the bare minimum, Leah said, her voice honey-sweet with just a hint of steel underneath. That's what a real man does for family. Margaret nodded approvingly. Michael is such a bright boy. He deserves every opportunity. I set down my fork and leaned back in my chair. The silence stretched until Charles cleared his throat impatiently. Well? What's it going to be, Owen? I smiled. The same smile I'd given Leah in our kitchen 2 weeks ago. Of course. Consider it handled. The relief around the table was palpable. Leah actually reached across and squeezed my hand. Thank you, honey. I knew you'd do the right thing. I always do the right thing, Leah. It's one of my best qualities. After dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom and made a phone call to my lawyer, Patricia Wells. Patricia specialized in family law and had a reputation for creative solutions to complex problems. Owen, it's kind of late for... I need you to set up a charitable trust, tonight if possible. A trust? For what purpose? Child advocacy. Specifically, to fund legal representation for children in custody battles where one parent has been financially abusive. There was a pause. That's very specific. I want it funded with $60,000 from my personal account. And I want the first beneficiary to be Rebecca Weston. Another pause, longer this time. Greg Weston's ex-wife? The one fighting for custody of their daughter? The very same. Owen, I have to ask, don't. Just set it up. Make sure it's ironclad and completely legal. I want Greg to know exactly where the money came from when Rebecca's new lawyer starts filing motions. I could hear Patricia's smile through the phone. You know, I've never liked that smug bastard. This is going to be fun. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quarterly reports. Leah's voice was shrill with panic. Owen, what did you do? Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How's the weather at Dina's? Don't play games with me, Greg's lawyer called. His assets are frozen. Rebecca is suing for full custody and back alimony. She has the best family law attorney in the state, and somehow she can afford him now. I leaned back in my office chair, watching the October leaves drift past my window. Funny how these things work out. You son of a bitch. That money was supposed to go to Michael. And it went to help a child. Just not the one you had in mind. The silence on the other end was deafening. When Leah spoke again, her voice was deadly quiet. You're going to regret this. Probably. But not today. She hung up, and I immediately called Sam. How's our surveillance going? Better than expected. They're panicking. Greg's been making calls to every lawyer in town, trying to find someone who will take his case pro bono. Leah's been crying in her car outside the agency for 2 days. And the other thing? Lucas outdid himself. That Tesla looked like a crime scene when Greg found it yesterday morning. Fish guts in the air vents, super glue in the door locks, and somehow Lucas managed to get glitter into the electrical system. Every time Greg turns on the car, it looks like a unicorn exploded. I couldn't help but laugh. How much damage? 15 grand minimum. And that's if he can find someone willing to work on it. Most mechanics in town think he's an asshole. That afternoon, I drove to the agency where Leah worked. The building was all glass and steel, designed to look innovative and cutting edge. I'd always thought it looked like a fishbowl. I found Hannah Morrison in the parking lot, loading boxes into her car. Her face was blotchy with tears, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Hannah." She spun around, startled. "Owen!" "I didn't see you there." "Cleaning out your office?" Her face crumpled. "They fired me. Said there were irregularities in the expense accounts." "Were there?" She looked away. "I don't know what you mean." "Hannah, I've known you for 10 years. You're a terrible liar. It was just... Greg said the agency would reimburse everything. All those dinners, the hotel rooms, the trips. He said it was all legitimate business expenses. But they weren't. No. The word came out as a whisper. They were personal. For him and Leah. And when the audit started, Greg disappeared. Left me holding the bag. I helped her load the last box into her car. "What will you do now?" "I don't know. I might have to declare bankruptcy. My husband is talking about leaving me." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I'm sorry, Owen, about everything. I knew what they were doing and I helped them hide it." "We all make choices, Hannah." "Yeah, well, mine were pretty shitty." I watched her drive away, feeling something that might have been pity if I'd been a better man. But I wasn't a better man anymore. I was something else entirely. The confrontation came on a Friday night at Murphy's Bar, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, and the drinks were strong enough to loosen tongues. I was nursing a whiskey when Greg stormed in, his usual polish replaced by desperation and rage. "You!" He pointed at me across the crowded bar. "You fucking coward!" The entire bar went quiet. Even the jukebox seemed to hold its breath. I turned slowly on my stool. "Greg, you look terrible. Rough week?" "You know exactly what kind of week I've had." He stalked over, his face flushed with alcohol and fury. "You destroyed my life. I think you have me confused with someone else. I'm just a guy whose wife decided to trade up. Don't play innocent. The trust fund, the car, getting Hannah fired. Hannah got herself fired. Embezzlement tends to have that effect." Greg's hands clenched into fists. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, I've got news for you. Leah never loved you. She told me you were boring in bed, boring at parties, boring at everything. She settled for you because she was young and stupid." The bar was dead silent now, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. I could feel their eyes on us like spotlights. Is that supposed to hurt my feelings? She's mine now. Has been for months, and when this is all over, when I get my money back and Rebecca crawls back into whatever hole she came from, Leah and I are going to laugh about this. About you. I stood up slowly, my whiskey still in hand. Greg was taller than me, broader, but there was something desperate in his eyes that made him look small. "You know what's funny, Greg? You think this is about Leah. Isn't it? No, this is about consequences. You see, I spent 15 years being the good guy, the understanding husband, the one who cleaned up messes and fixed problems and never asked for credit." I took a sip of whiskey. But good guys finish last, don't they? They get cheated on and lied to and treated like doormats. "So what are you now?" I smiled, and this time I didn't bother to hide the teeth. "I'm the consequences." Greg swung at me then, a wild haymaker that would have dropped me if it had connected, but I'd been expecting it. I ducked, and his fist sailed over my head and into the bar mirror behind me. The crash of breaking glass was spectacular. Greg howled, clutching his bleeding hand, and that's when Sam appeared beside him. My old friend had been sitting in the back booth, watching and waiting. "Easy there, champ," Sam said, grabbing Greg's arm. "Let's not make this worse than it already is." "Get off me!" Greg tried to pull away, but Sam's grip was iron. "I don't think so. See, I used to be a cop and I know assault when I see it. Lucky for you, Owen here is feeling generous tonight." I looked around the bar at the sea of faces, some shocked, some entertained, all of them hungry for gossip that would feed the rumor mill for months. You want to know where Leah is right now, Greg? He stopped struggling and stared at me. She's at her sister's house, crying into a bottle of wine and calling divorce lawyers. Because funny thing about gold diggers, they don't stick around when the gold runs out. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed him a text message from Dina. Leah's drunk and talking about moving back to the city. Says she never wants to see Greg again. Thought you should know. Greg's face went white. She wouldn't. She already has. Packed her bags this afternoon and left you a Dear John letter on your kitchen counter, right next to the foreclosure notice. There's no foreclosure notice. There will be, Monday morning, when Rebecca's lawyer files for an emergency injunction to seize your assets pending the custody hearing. Turns out when you hide money from your ex-wife, judges get cranky. Greg sagged in Sam's grip like a deflated balloon. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I finished my whiskey and set the glass on the bar. You lost the moment you decided to fuck with my life. You just didn't know it yet. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Greg, that trust fund I set up, it's permanent. Every month for the next 10 years, Rebecca gets a check to help raise your daughter. The daughter you tried to abandon when you decided playing house with my wife was more important than being a father. You can't. I already did. It's all legal, all documented, and completely irrevocable. Consider it my gift to a little girl who deserves better than you. I left him there in the wreckage of his dignity, surrounded by the whispers and stares of people who would never look at him the same way again. Outside, the October air was crisp and clean. I took a deep breath and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Wells. Divorce papers finalized. House is yours, business is yours, and Leah gets nothing but her personal belongings. She can contest it, but given the adultery evidence, I doubt any judge will be sympathetic. I typed back, "Thank you." Then I drove home to the house that was truly mine now, where I could start rebuilding a life that didn't include liars and cheaters and people who confused kindness for weakness. Behind me, Murphy's Bar buzzed with the kind of gossip that would follow Greg Weston and Leah Ashford Harper for the rest of their lives in this town. They'd probably leave eventually, start over somewhere else where people didn't know their story. But I would remember. And every time someone asked me about forgiveness, about being the bigger man, about turning the other cheek, I'd think about this night and smile. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the good guy doesn't finish last. Sometimes he finishes exactly where he belongs.